we about to do it. Watch us get into it. We some lumberjacks, and we needin' wood. Yeah, we going for the sweep, then we mop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up, 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 chop it up. We put it all on the block, and then we chop it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a lot of familiar faces and a couple people out of this show tonight. But this is the Chop and Block podcast presented by DJ's Clamshack here in Saint Augustine, Florida, the oldest city in the country. And if you haven't been, you got to get down here. This is the first coast, might be the best coast, might not be. But a couple of points before we get tonight's show started. Shout out to one of our analysts, the Busty Bets man himself, Jared Cole, on the birth of his little girl. My little girl's about 7 months old, so huge shout out there, Jared. Also, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. My mom is battling breast cancer. So here at the Chop and Block podcast, we just wanted to, shout out everyone. If whether you're a family member of somebody that's dealt with breast cancer, you've personally dealt with it, we are praying for you, and we hope that everything goes well. The Chop and Block podcast is with you. But this is This Week in College Football, and man, oh man, do we have a show for you boys. I'm going to jump right into it. What are the biggest takeaways from this Husky win? The crowd stormed the field as we see here. Michael Penix Jr. had, a smile only someone could have that didn't understand English and didn't know how to give you an answer back. The biggest smile in the world. And I don't blame him. So, Havoc, I'm going to throw it to you first. And Havoc has not been in a college football show in a very long time. So, glad to have the CCW Tag Team Champion himself here tonight. Havoc, what do you got? What are the biggest takeaways from this Husky win?
I mean, it's got to be Michael Penix. He's putting himself up higher on that Heisman list. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns in the game. He's making quick decisions, getting the ball out. Just been very impressed with him overall. I know he's a 6-year senior, but you still got to throw the football. You still got to hit the open man, and he's been playing great, and hopefully he can keep it up. My biggest takeaway would be he's got to go up on that Heisman list, Michael Penix.
All right. Dylan Penix Jr. Apparently, Michael's got a white brother from Silver Creek.
Exactly right. That is my brother from another mother. No, look, I'm with Havoc. To me, he not only does he need to go up, he needs to be number 1 on the Heisman list. I think he's proven that. Now, outside of him, my biggest takeaway from them is I needed to see them win a physical game. I needed to see them play a physical front to see if they could withstand that and still do their high flying, high scoring offense. And they did it. Like Dan Lanning's a guy, he's going to have a great front seven. He's going to test you. And they passed the test, man. They showed that they can win a tough game. Now I do think those teams are evenly matched. If that game is at Oregon, I think Oregon wins by 3. They're both, I think they're right there at the top. We just saw USC get exploited. I think those are your top 2 teams. Probably see them play again.
Hey, got to respect that. Craig, what you got to say?
Man, I hate to be a homer here, but I'm going back to what I said 5 weeks ago. I still got a 1A and a 1B, Penix and Bo Nix. I don't know how you take anything away from Bo Nix against his performance against Washington. He didn't choke. He didn't throw a big interception. He didn't fumble. He handled the ball well. He drove his team down the field with less than a minute to go to put them in range to kick a field goal, and the kicker missed it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask much more out of your starting quarterback than that. I don't know if y'all saw the 3-minute interview he did after that had some talked about faith and family and everything else. It was kind of a little bit of a mic drop. It wasn't quite Tim Tebow-ish, but it had a little shades of Tim Tebow in it after the loss. He had some class. So I still have Penix edging him out because, let's be honest, it's a beauty contest. At the end of the day, Washington won the game. So Penix is ahead, even though his stats head-to-head against Bo are not as good. I mean, Penix passed for 302 and Nick's 337. Penix had an interception that was kind of not the greatest throw in the world. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do with it, but it wasn't pretty. Nick's had better ball control. I felt like he matriculated the team a little better. Again, the question is, it's kind of like, Dylan said, I think that Washington had a little bit of an uphill climb as far as dealing with the front seven of Oregon. But, in the first quarter, they had two Duck players go down, a cornerback and a safety, and they were dealing with some injuries in their secondary, and Penix took advantage of it. And kudos to him for doing that, man, to pick it out, to get the matchup you want, and to make the call. I mean, there's a couple plays. I saw him do a pre-snap read. He got one-on-one on somebody out there, and one of those new guys, and just torched him. So I'm not taking anything away from Penix, but I still got Penix 1A and Bo Nix 1B.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't agree with Dylan Gabriel. It's like, how you going to get fired on your day off, Craig? Have Gabriel move up to number 1 and they play. Come on, man. Don't agree.
Well, before I throw it to Coach Price, because he always is going to add a cherry on top. Somehow, when that bag opens in that truck, a cherry falls out somehow. But before we get to that, here's what I want to ask you guys on this topic. This game seems like the Washington of old. They win the Pac-12 games, and this game is not going to be the most physical game they play if they were in the playoff or if they, make it to the national championship. Do you honestly think a team like this Washington team can stack up against a Alabama who might finish third in the SEC, an LSU, a Georgia, even a Tennessee for that matter, or a Kentucky? I mean, that's the tell-all for me. They look great out on the West Coast. That game was phenomenal. But it's like, are we going to have a big letdown as fans, as neutral fans, if they make it to the playoff?
Yeah, I think it's about scheme and matchups, and if they do have a playoff game where they're going to a neutral site and they're playing a Georgia or they're playing a Michigan, it's going to be tougher sledding. But in today's college football, if you can hang 40 on people, you can win the game at any point, especially with the new clock rule. It's going to be limited possession. So the offense is more efficient and they can be more explosive. They can win any game. So
one thing to add on that, does it not feel that an Oregon with Bo Nix or just an Oregon in general, this team, suits to be a better team in the playoff than a Washington? Because it does to me.
Yeah, neutral site or at Oregon, I'm giving the edge to Oregon.
Yeah, me too. Especially like Craig said, Bo Nix has been playing outstanding football. He just, got unlucky at the end of the game.
I do agree that the last two drives are very unfortunate for Oregon. I mean, you had the ability to end the game, and you should have. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. Washington wins the game. Coach Price, I'm going to go to you, and then you just let me know when that truck's ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, first thing I want to say is you go to last week's show and you'll see I predicted Washington will win this game by 3.
Yep.
That's how close they are together. And not only that, you got Dan Lanning over there, and he had time to prepare for this ball game. And then you take Penix, and he did what he did against somebody who prepared for him for 2 weeks. So my biggest takeaway from this ball game is all of us, got a chance to see the best 2 NFL-ready quarterbacks in college football. And when I say NFL-ready, which one of them backed down and did not take their team down the field with that much change on the clock to try to win a ball game? In the NFL, that's what you're asking for. Mm-hmm. You don't really need a field general in the NFL as opposed to needing that quarterback to win his crunch time. And when you need it, he can go out and get it. Because even though we can criticize defenses in the NFL and in the league, you can't criticize the schemes and the packages that those teams are bringing to you. You're just playing against the best in the world. So what I saw out of Bo Nix, dude, you showed me that give me 50 seconds, I get you a win. And if I don't get you a win, then it's on this guy's foot. But we'll be in a situation where we're going to get something done. And as far as Penix goes, dude, I thought that the Oklahoma-Texas game couldn't get no better at the end of the year for this season. But this game took it and put it into another dimension. It's very rare that back-to-back you get two NCAA classics.
Mm-hmm.
And we got two NCAA classics in that game last week and the week before that. So the biggest takeaway I get from all this is you got the best two quarterbacks, I believe, coming out of college football to do what an NFL team really needs to happen. Because how many games in the league is decided by 4 or fewer points? But if I know I got two guys like this that can take a team, put them on the shoulders, drive them not just down the field, but all the way down the field, and come away with a win and a possible tie, I take them all day long, as opposed to a guy that could sit back there, throw for 400 yards in a ball game, blow somebody out 56-3, but got to the NFL, and all of a sudden, when it was time to go get it, the knees started shaking. These guys will be two players that I can tell you right now that if they're ever in that situation in the NFL, their knees won't shake. But speaking of shaky knees, when I put this truck in reverse, my knees won't be shaking. But I'll tell you who knees are going to be shaking. And I'm going to drive this baby all the way to South Bend.
Ooh.
And you say, Coach, why are you still picking on Notre Dame? I'm not picking on them. I'm actually going to do them a favor since they are frequent customers of mine and I got them on contract. But they told me they had a bunch of drunk Spartans in toga suits in the parking lot. Because USC, I don't know what you were thinking when you thought you could walk into that stadium and just manhandle that team. It got proved that you guys are not ready. And Caleb Williams, if I were you, I wouldn't think about the NFL right now either. I'd live on that NIL deal because, buddy, you played like straight trash in that ball game. You had more turnovers in the first half than you probably had in the first 8 games last season. What were you thinking? Now, I can understand if Notre Dame came out and they had excellent DB play. But I'm sorry, I didn't see an NFL defensive back on that field. What I saw was a quarterback who didn't know what color jersey to throw it to because the passes were horrendous. So I'm going to tell you right now, USC, for what y'all done, getting beat in blowout fashion by Notre Dame, who's already had 2 stops, and we already know they don't even come prepared to do the job, and they're short on bags most of the time.
Yep.
You Trojans are straight trash. Now my next stop, and I'm going to keep it on the West Coast, but I am so disappointed in these Washington Cougars who got literally thumped by Arizona. And we actually had faith in you boys and thought y'all were going to be a dangerous team this year. But after the performance that you put on against that squad, now I'm not taking anything from Arizona. That defense is nice. And if Arizona had won that ball game against Washington State and it was a close game, Washington, I wouldn't even be in your driveway. But, dude, y'all got thumped. So with the performance that y'all put on, and anybody out there to think those Washington Cougars turned over the Ryan Leaf and became a new leaf, forget about it. You straight trash. Now, this final stop, I really thought about it, but I said there's no way I would not fill up my truck to go here. Because not only am I coming to pick up trash, but I'm coming to tell some certain individual that you need to call that man down in Tuscaloosa so that he could call that little duck for you to come in and tell you you need some coaching insurance because having a 29-point lead at halftime to Stanford and come out and blow it right now, Prime, there's a gap in your coaching ability. You don't come out and give up a ball game to Stanford with a 29-point lead. But this is your problem, Coach Prime. You're trying to be Optimus Prime, and little Bumblebee, which is the door, is your man. So quit playing daddy ball, because the minute his name hit the board as a Heisman candidate, all of a sudden we got to go out here and make him a Heisman Trophy winner. What you should have done, Coach, is instead of worrying about Shador and getting him some stats and try to make this a blowout, you should have been a coach and thought about your team. So, Prime, with the ability to try to close out a ball game, knowing that you really need Aflac, you and those Colorado Buffaloes are straight trash. Now I'm gonna park it.
I tell you what, that was the dumpster might be on fire. The truck itself, who knows? But let me tell you somebody who is not.
Man, you just got to realize it's true trash that I'm putting in there.
Well, let's talk about some people that I don't think could wind up. Well, I take that back. We just talked about somebody who was in these power rankings and somehow wound up in Coach Price's truck the week after. But let's talk about these guys right here. And this is the Chop and Block Podcast Heisman Power Rankings. And every week we see movement on this graph, and we don't have any explanation why. You're the only ones that can give an opinion. So I'm going to start with Havoc. What do you have to say about this this starting five here on the Heisman Power Rankings? Is there anything you don't agree with here? What should change? And if you like it, let us know.
Well, right now, I think a couple things should change. Dylan Gabriel should not be first. I just think Michael Penix's win is more important than any wins that he beat Texas. Let me rephrase that. But beating Oregon against a coach like Dan Lanning, Dan Lanning's a really good coach, and he went in there and picked them apart. So I'd put Penix first. It might not be the popular opinion, but I'd go with I'd go with Jordan Travis next, then Dylan Gabriel, and then let's see. So Dylan Gabriel third, then no. I'll put hold on, sorry about that. So Michael Penix first, then Jordan Travis, then Bo Nix, and then Drake May last.
I'm going to go ahead and give you mine so I can help out anybody up against the ropes. I'm going to be honest with you. The one that sticks out for me that makes no sense, all right, is Jordan Travis. And let me tell you why. I'm going to name a quarterback from a team that everybody just kind of thinks, well, they're no good this year. But his stats are way better than Jordan Travis.
Yep.
And it's Graham Mertz. This man has 600 more yards passing. He is 12% better in a completion rate. The only difference is his team has, 2 losses? So that's the one thing I wanted to bring up on this table. What makes Jordan Travis and Graham Mertz different other than the record? I'm going to let that sink into you boys. Coach Price, go ahead. What do you got to say on this one?
Well, it's hard to knock Dylan Gabriel out of the number 1 spot considering the fact he was off. So what he's done so far, I could say we can keep him at a stack 1. But when I look at this list, I'm glad to see Drake May finally on here. He should have been on there, but everybody kind of slept on them because last thing you want to do is say 2 ACC quarterbacks in the mix. And not only that, only one of them is ranked inside of the top 5. So I'm glad to see Drake May on the list. But at number 2, Michael Penix, I would actually say I would flip him to number 1, but I'm not going to take anything away from Dylan because he didn't play. So I'm going to keep him at number 2. But to me, after what I seen Saturday, I'm putting Bo Nix at 3 because that's what we saw was a Heisman candidate drive out of him to try to win a ball game from a Heisman candidate winner, or in as far as the game goes, who went and won the ball game. Because it ain't like Penix went and scored that touchdown and added an extra dimension to the scoring. He went and actually won the ball game. And then Bo Nix turned around and came back and almost drove to win the ball game. So with both of those guys, I put them 2 and 3 solid off of that performance as far as a Heisman. Jordan Travis, I don't see him on this list, right now at all. He's playing good, he's consistent, but there's nothing right now that I can sit here and say by having Jordan Travis on this list that you better watch out for Florida State's offense because this guy's going to come in here and kill you. I don't see that out of him. But the other 3 guys that I just mentioned, I can see that out of them easily. So I would have it as Gabriel because he didn't play, Penix, number 2, Bo Nix, number 3, Drake May, number 4, and I would literally have Jaden Daniels at number 5 because without him, what is LSU?
I agree. I do agree. I'm actually happy with the poll this week for the show because there has been a lot of movement and a lot of questionable things. I was absolutely shocked when I saw that Graham Mertz is blowing Jordan Travis away stats-wise. And if you look, throughout the media right now, Jordan Travis is a top 5 Heisman candidate. And it makes, now that I think about it, it makes no sense. He's just on a very successful team. But Dylan, what do you got to say?
Yeah, look, first on Jordan Travis, get him off my list, get him off our poll. Everybody hated Stetson last year because he's 25 years old. Jordan Travis is the same age. He's putting up good numbers. They're not Heisman numbers. So I'm going to kick him off, and I'm going to put a one-legged Brock Bowers on this list. Zero shot he's going to win it now. It's unfortunate. Just hopefully we get him back in time to if we're in a position to make a run at something, hopefully he's back healthy. I'm with Coach on his last statement. To me, Jaden Daniels has to be in this list. If they don't have Jaden Daniels, they've got 4 losses. And they're talking about firing Brian Kelly right now. Now, with his chance to win it, I think they're going to have to win out, or at worst, just lose to Alabama maybe. And he's going to have to continue to put up crazy numbers. But yeah, man, this poll, man, I'm with it. I'd put Michael Penix number 1, and then again, Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel 2, 3 right there, and then after that, man, it to me it really doesn't matter. Those are going to be your winners. Whichever team is more successful at the end of the year, that quarterback's going to win it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Craig.
I still got the same thing, man. 1A, I got Michael Penix. 1B, I got Bo Nix. In my second spot, you got to give Dylan Gabriel some love. But, I'm like I said before, how do you get fired on your day off, Craig? How in the world does Dylan Gabriel go up in the rankings when we don't even play a damn game? I mean, let's be real, especially after watching Bo Nix and Penix play. I mean, all they did was solidify their Heisman shot. I get it. I mean, scheduling, everybody needs a bye week, but that's neither here nor there. So I move him to 2. Jordan Travis is off the list all the way around. I got Drake May at 3. Number 4 is Jaden Daniels, and number 5 is the one-legged Brock Bowers.
And that's coming from an Auburn fan. That's a standing ovation.
I saw it firsthand, just like I saw Jaden Daniels. To be honest with you, I hadn't watched a lot of LSU this year because that defense has been dumpster juice, especially after they got just destroyed in the first week. I'm like, this is going to be a long year for Kelly. But the same thing kind of happened last year a little bit. They got tested up front, but they had a better defense. But that's kind of when Jaden kind of started hitting his stride last year, and kind of solidified his starting role. And he was a dog, and he's a dog, man. I mean, that kid, I watched him just run all over Auburn. Coverage downfield, and guess what? I'll just stretch out for 15 yards every time the middle of the field opens up. I mean, that's dangerous, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
You know who Jaden Daniels remind me of? Like when he gets tackled and he ends up getting the first down. Do y'all remember what was his name? Gumby?
For who?
Jaden Daniels. Do y'all remember the little cartoon character Gumby?
Yeah, I remember Gumby. Stretch
it. You could stretch him a mile. Does he not look like a piece of licorice, like a long stick of licorice out there?
That must be the only way he's not getting hurt, Coach, because he's a little dude.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
I don't know how that ain't going to transfer over to the NFL very well. I don't think. Little men in the NFL don't go hand in hand. That's a gladiator sport.
But it's like if he 4 yards short, that you think when you tackle him and they go back to the replay and he stretched out for the knee hit, then he gained 6 extra yards just off of his arms.
Well, hey, I got one curveball question to ask you guys here that is not planned in tonight's show, so I'm interested in this. If you don't want to answer, don't speak up. But if you have something, speak up. All right, here's the scenario. Oklahoma and Dylan Gabriel, they go undefeated for the regular season. Washington and Michael Penix Jr. go undefeated in the regular season.
Here we go.
And, all right, Jaden Daniels and LSU win the SEC West. Who is your Heisman champion and why? Even if it's something simple, even if it's just stats, who wins the Heisman and why?
I'm going to still go with Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
if they're in the playoff, he wins it.
He wins it because, I mean,
do you look at his win bigger than an Oklahoma over Texas win?
Yeah, I mean, but can Oklahoma beat Texas twice?
Yeah, it's beauty contest too, Dylan or Dalton. There's too much. I mean, we like to look how shiny that Ferrari is. It ain't gonna take a guardrail too good.
And I think the Pac-12 as a whole, not just the one game against Oregon, the Pac-12 is a better conference. It's deeper. It's probably the best.
They are.
It's probably the deepest.
I agree.
Here.
I do agree with that. I just think for me that's weird is like if as high as Texas has been talked about, until that loss at Oklahoma, if he beats Texas twice and is undefeated, can you really take the Heisman away from him?
Yeah.
Well, counterintuitively, okay, so if Jaden Daniels wins out, that means they win in Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could make an argument here where all three guys could win. Has there ever been, I don't think this is possible, but I want to ask the question, has there ever been co-Heismans?
No.
But
I didn't think so either.
But the thing that kills that I don't think about Jaden Daniels on that end is I could say that a win over Alabama would look great for him, and that's their only path to the SEC championship. But if Alabama was more of a potent offense and he beat them in a shootout, because we already know their defense is legit, if he was facing a better Alabama offense or any of the offenses that we could pull out the bag from Alabama in the past and everything else, and it came down to a real shootout, I don't think his defense is going to hold up as long as Alabama's defense, and that he would make more mistakes in that ball game and it would literally knock him out. Playing Alabama right now, it's hit or miss on their offense. So if you take LSU against them and they can make stops and beat Alabama, then that's not as much on Jaden Daniels as it is on LSU's defense being better that day.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, y'all, on that one. That is one question I've had in my mind. I always think of these wild scenarios. I think it does seem like the SEC West scenario we talked about last week, where there could be 3 teams tied for first place. That seems like it's over, right? There's no way that can kind of happen. I guess Ole Miss. I don't see who the team should lose to for it to happen. I'll say that.
What position did you play in football, Dalton?
Quarterback.
So why would I not expect you to call an audible and come out of the play that was called?
Hey, that's the thing. I don't, I just don't. I think it'd be cool if the SEC West, did have a 3-way tie between an Alabama, an LSU, and an Ole Miss. I don't think it can happen. But to go over the next slide, I need your guys' opinion on one thing in particular. The college football playoff final will be played at NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, home of the Houston Texans. But before we get to there, just speaking of the playoff, if the season ended, last Saturday night, who would your first 4 be in, and who would the first 2 be out? That's all I want to know. I don't want to know national championship matchups. Who are the first 4 in and the first 2 out? Have it. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll go with Georgia, Washington. Then I have to go with Michigan, and got to go with the Oklahoma, since they got that win over Texas. And then the 2 out, Ohio State, and let's see, Penn State.
All right. Coach Price, who you got?
Well, I'm gonna have number 1 Georgia in there, of course. Number 2, I'm gonna have Washington in there because I think they'll win that conference. And my first 2 out are gonna be Florida State and Ohio State, because my 2 that's gonna jump up in that 4 is gonna be Oklahoma, like I said, and Washington. So I look at Ohio State being out, Oklahoma getting in. I look at Georgia being there. Like I said, Florida State will be there. Michigan will be there. Did I take 1 or 2 out?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I got Ohio State out, and I got Florida State out. I got Michigan in, and in that slot that Ohio State was in, I got Oklahoma there. So my top 4 is Georgia, Oklahoma, Michigan, Washington, because I think Oklahoma is the better team, and with the win that they got over Alabama right now, if the season was chopped, I got them in the 4. Washington with the win over Oregon, I got y'all in the 4. Like I said, Michigan, I got y'all ahead of Ohio State, in my opinion, right now in that conference. So I got them in the 4.
All right. Dylan, before I throw it to you, I'm going to give y'all my top 4, my top 2 out, or last 2 out, however you want to look at it. I'm going to go number 1, Georgia. I know they've been streaky all year, but it does seem like they have enough to win the national championship again. They're talented on all sides of the ball. Defenses, I know they look horrible at times, but they don't really look horrible if you look at the whole game. Super strong on the defensive side of the ball. Carson Beck's definitely the guy, and seems like he could win a comeback victory if needed. So I've got Georgia, Carson Beck at number 1. Number 2, I'll be honest with you, I value a win against Texas a little bit better than an Oregon win for Washington. So I got number 2, Oklahoma. Number 3, this one's the toughest one for me. Number 3, I'm going to go Washington. Number 4, I'm going to go Michigan. And the last 2, first 2 out, I'm going to go Ohio State, and I'm going to go Florida State. I think Penn State is the 3rd one out, but those 2 make the most sense for me. I'm really interested to see what would happen if all of these teams won out. How would you decide, who would be the final 4? But I guess we'll see when we get there. Dylan.
Yeah, I think we've all got the same 4. I'm actually going, man. I got to go with the best wins when I'm ranking these teams. So I got Washington 1, I got Oklahoma 2, Georgia at 3, and Michigan at 4. And Dalton just brought up Carson Beck, and y'all know I'm a homer for my boy Carson Beck. We were talking about the Heisman finalist earlier, and if you take a look at the Heisman odds and look who's 8th in odds to win the Heisman, it is Mr. Carson Beck. Not going to happen, but that's just a pretty cool stat to see. And then on my first 2 out, definitely Ohio State, and the other one, like, it's weird we're not talking about. It's like we all don't want Florida State in. They are that team. But I really want to put Texas right there because I think Texas can win that rematch against Oklahoma and get in.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Craig.
Yeah, I'm kind of this is kind of a hypothetical because, again, we're doing it for this week right now. If we shut time off and looked at it, this is before conference championships, before anything else. So I'm going off performance up to this point, up to Saturday night. So in that case, I got to put Washington number 1, right? I still got Georgia hanging around at number 2 because they haven't not been beat yet, and they play an SEC schedule, so that's some props. I think Washington's probably got the signature win of the year so far. I got number 3. I got Oklahoma for beating Texas, and then I got Ohio State for beating Notre Dame because let's face it, Ohio State hadn't lost yet. My first 2 out are Michigan and Florida State, and the reason Michigan's out is because Michigan doesn't play a ranked team till damn week 10. We're talking about all these wonderful wins. The front 4 have had some pretty tough wins. They've had some signature wins. Even Georgia, going down to Jordan Hare ain't no easy feat. Granted, Auburn was unranked, and it wasn't a classic like these others we're talking about. That's a tough place to win. So they've got some signature wins, and I think Georgia gets a 1-up. They get a little bit of a pass just because they play the dang SEC schedule. That's enough right there. I mean, now granted, this will be flipped over 15 times in the next 5 weeks because all these guys are going to play each other. Well, hell, coming up Saturday, Penn State gets to travel with a horseshoe. That's going to eliminate one of these teams. So we'll have to see what happens next. But that's the reason I pick them. I pick them as if like you put the stopwatch went off at midnight on Saturday night. Well, actually 3 a.m. Sunday morning, I guess, with all the Pac-12 teams. Sunday morning, and you made your decision from there. And I make the decision over signature wins, not who I think's going to win or who's going to lose. We're talking about their body of work up to this point, and that's my 4.
And I totally agree with Craig on it, on the Michigan part about it. But the only reason why I got Michigan right now is just because I think they'll actually beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I do too. I believe you 100%, Coach. I'm with, but I'm talking about like up till right now.
Right now, and because that's like you said, they don't play anybody to week 10.
No.
So if it stopped right now, we're nowhere near week 10. So I gotta put them in because we hadn't got to week 10. But I don't really feel that Michigan will actually be in that slot. So I agree with Craig on that. As far as if we chopped it off right now, like the chopping block, then I got them in. But anything, knowing that they hadn't faced anybody yet and they won't face anybody to week 10, then I would put them on the chopping block right now.
Yeah, and this week, and this is a little teaser for later in the show, but this week we'll tell a lot on who we're going to have, right outside that top 4 with Ohio State, Penn State.
Yep, first 2 outs going to be much different next week.
Yep.
Well, hey, I'm going to throw in a good old hypothetical. I see that we have a viewer backstage watching this show as he looks at me right now, Two-Turn Tony. He's smiling backstage. Two-Turn, this is something I want you to comment here in the private chat. Don't post this in the public one. But and I want you guys to give your comment on this. This is a hypothetical. I gave you one for the SEC. I gave you one for the Pac-12. All right. Let's say Penn State upsets Ohio State this weekend. All right. and then Ohio State wins out and upsets Michigan. You've got a 3-team one-loss in the Big Ten. I mean, what happens? I want to know from a couple of you guys at least.
It depends what the tiebreaker is because they're all on the same side. Yeah,
That's right. They would all be on the same side.
Does it go to win differential? If so, then Michigan's in.
Yeah,
they're beating everybody by 40.
If it goes strength to schedule, then Penn State's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the harsh reality I've had to face because I see where this question is going about letting Alabama in because I know who asked the question. The harsh reality of this is let's just face the facts this year. The SEC ain't that great, fellas. I mean, we talked about Dan Lanning and Oregon's front seven being real good. Who's got the best front seven in the SEC? Arguably Texas A&M, right? I mean, I would it ain't Alabama. Right? It ain't Georgia.
It ain't Georgia.
Hey, y'all should see TJ in the background here backstage. He's about to literally lose his mind. Tony is on vacation. Paid suspension this week. But hey, can anybody let us know what the tiebreaker is? And let's break it down for a second. I mean, a 3-team Big Ten, Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State. To me, it sounds like it's going to come down to who would have the highest ranked win, which would be Ohio State.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if that is the tiebreaker, I mean, that's what's wild to me. It always seems like Ohio State has a way in.
True. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about what if Penn State beat Ohio State and Ohio State was ranked? If Penn State upsets Ohio State's ranked higher than
yeah.
But think about it. If Michigan goes undefeated, they're going to be number 2.
Yeah, probably. You're right. Ohio State would have a better win. You're right.
So it's like, but what would happen if they both were number 3 and lost? You know,
the one I'm reading right here, and it was updated this year, said your win percentage against the highest ranked common opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's giving me a headache.
Doesn't that seem very vague? That seems like it could be
just throw it in the BCS model, and whoever's first.
It seems vague enough for a high state, don't it?
Yeah,
it does.
Just vague enough.
I hate to say it, but it seems like, I mean, if you go back to 2014, think about that year alone. Ohio State probably didn't deserve to be in the playoff, and then they go and win it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I am glad we're going to, what is it? Is it 12 teams confirmed?
Yeah.
I'm glad we're going to 12 teams. And Two-Turn put a good comment here. TCU, I do agree. They were the best team in the country that 2014 year.
They were
and if
hottest.
you put them in the national championship, they probably run away with it. They embarrassed Ole Miss that year. In the I think that was the Peach Bowl, which was a New Year's Six bowl that year. Ole Miss was, highly touted and I think was the favorite in that game. But TCU beat them. It's like 56 to something. It was embarrassing.
Hey, I'd like to talk about that a second. Just the affluent. Here's the thing, and this is from going to a lot of Auburn Bowl games when they were real good all year and then ended up losing the SEC championship, or something happened, or they lost a game late, lost to Alabama, and ended up not playing the SEC championship and ended up playing the Peach Bowl or something. Because I went to the Peach Bowl when they played North Carolina, and it was Tar Heel hell. Because every Auburn fan, I went because it was in Georgia, but every Auburn fan that was there, including the team, didn't want to be there. And then you get down there into North Carolina, that was like the damn national championship game. So it's hard to relay those things. Was Ole Miss, the Ole Miss TCU thing? I get it, but that was a real big deal for TCU to go to the Peach Bowl. Ole Miss is like, meh.
Look, people, especially mainly outside of the SEC, they call it excuses every year, but it is a real thing, dude. When a team,
nobody cares about it.
When a team's goal is to make
the Alabamas and the Georgias and the teams that are used to getting the playoffs every year, you get to you go to the Outback Bowl. Guess what? You ain't gonna be real fired up about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a letdown, and it is for anybody. You're human. I mean, we're all human. It's like, I look at it like this. We've all, most of us played on the same team in baseball and football. It's like when you when you go to the state tournament and you lose the game to go to the finals or something, and they make you play that, hey, let's see who got
Consolation
third
game.
place. It's like, man, the hell with third place.
Yeah.
I don't want to play that game. You know, you throw your worst pitcher out there, you just say, well, we're going to try to hit to win.
See what we got next year.
Yeah, let's see what we got next year. I mean, do we even have to show up, coach? I mean, it's like,
not only that, you got to look at it, especially in this era now. How many players from a team in the SEC or any other Power 5 conference goes to a bowl game that don't really mean nothing, and you got 14 players that opted out of the bowl game?
right,
Yeah.
right.
Hey, it's going to get worse too, because now that you're going to have 12 bowls that mean something, these other bowls, you know, as Reese Bobby said, second's the first loser, son. So,
Right.
you know, it's going to be that way. If I was a kid and I know that I was high enough to where I didn't need to have any more tape down, and we were going to play in a championship and possibly get a ring, and all of a sudden the last game of the year we don't make it, you know what I'm doing? I hate to say this, because you talk about, especially now, that could end your career. You know, it would be real hard for me to play in the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl or the Birmingham Bowl unless I'd been there for 4 years. You know, I mean, I get your teammates, and I'm not trying to downplay any of that stuff, and that's why I love college football over the pros. But as much as we want to talk about it and admit that it ain't happening, there's a little bit of pro football that's squeaking into the NCAA now with this NIL stuff. We're going to see a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah, it's more of a business decision now than it is about. Yeah.
And I think that business decision should only happen at halftime. I think you got to play in the bowl game with your team, and you can make the decision at halftime. Do you want to come out and complete this game with your team because you're going to go to the league? Because, I mean, you got to think about it. Right now, we're sitting here saying, you know, we're talking high on. Let's just get on like Caleb Williams in USC. Okay, right now, we know y'all not going to win no natty. We know that y'all are fighting for third place in that conference. Okay, so what would USC really look like in a bowl game? Like you said, the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl game, and they got Chili Pup at the quarterback because Caleb Williams decided, I'm not playing.
Man, I love Duke's Mayonnaise.
We've already seen it. They got smacked by Tulane last year.
Yeah.
True.
So it's like, if a bowl game really don't mean something, how do you make it mean something? Put something in the clause. If you kids can go out and get NIL money, then y'all need to enforce something on those players that if you choose to get this NIL deal, you have to play in your bowl game.
I agree.
You got to put something in there, because you're making money in college football to make a decision of telling us when you do and don't want to play in a ball game, such as a bowl game, when, you know, if I'm in the NFL, I'm playing regardless, and I'm getting paid. I guarantee you right now, if the dadgum Miami Dolphins happen to go on some kind of skid to where they didn't win another ball game this season, that Tua is going to go into the last ball game of the season and say, I ain't dressing out. We ain't going to the playoffs. We 8 games out of a wild card. So I'm not playing in this final game. But no, Tua, you know why you're going to play in that game? Because the Miami Dolphins is paying your ass to play football. It ain't no different than the NIL deal. They're not paying you money to come there and get a 3.5 and make the dean's list. They paying you NIL money to come play college football to try to help us win a championship. So you're going to have to put the same clause on these players, because everybody is all hype. Oh, we got so-and-so, and we're going to be playing in the Fiesta Bowl, man. I'm telling you, he's going to go off. He the best wide receiver in college. Oh, what? He ain't going to play in it because he want to get ready for the NFL. Well, guess what, buddy? Y'all finna go get y'all ass stewed 34-6 because your guy wanted to go get ready for the NFL, but everybody that bought them tickets to go to that bowl game, they were coming to see you.
Yep.
I could even
go ahead, Greg.
I could even understand it like before the NIL, and I mean, we all know these kids get paid. They were getting paid a little bit of money regardless, but before it was legal, right? I mean, they weren't walking around with just, you know, barefooted on campus, and a lot of these kids were dirt broke. But they weren't making NIL money. They weren't making screw you money. They're making screw you money now. But back in that day, like back in my day, I hate to say that, back in my day, I could understand declaring for pros right after season's over if you're not going to a big bowl game because you're gonna get paid immediately. And that was a business decision for a lot of them kids. They got to support their families. I mean, I got all that stuff, but this NIL thing, man, we're still navigating some real fresh waters here. It's gonna be interesting to see how this goes the next 3 or 4 years.
And honestly, on that NIL deal, you got to have some type of mold of what it really takes to be an NIL player, or even have an opportunity to make NIL money. And what's the quarterback? I mean, the running back from Kentucky, Ray Davis. Dude, that's the story of somebody who struggled. That college money is worth it because he struggled. The path that he was on, the NFL was no guarantee. But you put him in college football, allow him to get NIL money, even if Ray Davis was not an NFL quality running back. Ray Davis made a better life and living for his family in college. That's NIL money.
Generational money for him.
Yeah, that's NIL money.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So I'm totally for it. And the other thing, just to be on my selfish side, I want to know when NCAA football is coming out. Damn it, we got NIL under control. Let's go.
2024 March. I'm already on the list, baby.
I'm ready for that one. Let's go.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to go ahead and throw this slide up, and I'm going to bring my final point on the last slide that we were just talking about. Here's what I think, boys. I kind of look at it differently than y'all. If you sign a full ride, a scholarship given by that school, and they give you the NCAA and them gives you the ability to make NIL money. Let's be honest. You should stay there and finish out that contract because it is a contract. Okay, just like you said with the NFL. I look at it the same way now with the NCAA. If they're giving you the opportunity to make that money, okay, they're giving you the platform. You don't have to play for the school. They're giving you that opportunity to be on their team, whether you're good or not. I truly think you should finish it out, at least until the old rules. You know, after your junior year, you can forego your senior year, go to the draft, whatever. But you should be able to. You should have to play all the games. It's just like you said, Coach. If Tua don't play, you know, if he goes up to the Miami Dolphins and says he's not going to play this weekend, they can say, well, you know what? You're going to play because you're under contract.
And if not only that, we'll fine you.
Right. And if you don't, we'll fine you. And if you don't play the next week, well, you're in breach of contract and you get no money guaranteed and you're fired. Because if you make a couple statements like that, because these college kids, let's be honest, man, they got everything rolled out on a red carpet to them. They're given clothes, the finest clothes you could get with all their logos on it. And that's the school's logos, not theirs. They're being given money to go there.
They're getting trucks.
Yeah. I mean, the tuxedos they get to wear. I mean, all these different headphones. I mean, they got it all. You know, the best meals in the world for their lunch. And it's specifically made. This is going back to 2012, Alabama. Those meals are specifically made for each player to better you. Okay, so if you decide, hey, that's too good for me, and you want to just go do your own thing, I think you should lose a year of eligibility or have to sit out a year, whatever you want to call it, just like the old days. But you got to honor that contract. They're allowing you to make millions at their school. You gotta earn it. I mean, I think we're in a like Craig said, we're in a slippery slope here. The next couple of years are going to be very, very important. And I mean, I think this year's important. You've already heard Caleb Williams talk about staying in college and making more money. When a lot of people see him as the foregone conclusion number one pick.
But now you got blue chippers they're trying to charge $5,000 for official visits in high school.
Right. And that's I'm glad I actually saw how Nick Saban answered that question. He's exactly right, man. You can't do anything like that. You know, I don't care how good. If they think they're that good, go play for somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, because not a lot of teams are going to do that for you.
Yeah, and another thing with NIL that we haven't really seen is the pressure on coaches. You know, when you draft in the NFL and you pay a guy $30 million, all right, well, you're gonna have to play him because he's getting paid. You look at a situation like Knoxville right now, when you're getting subpar play from their quarterback. Well, you got a backup quarterback making $8 million. Those boosters are going to start telling that coach, "Hey, we ain't paying this dude to sit here."
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
I
see,
agree.
now and like I said, okay, when are you eligible for the NFL? When you're a junior or a senior, right?
Yeah.
So the NIL is name, image, likeness. By your junior year, we all know your name. By your junior year, we know your image. And by your junior year, we know if we like you or not.
Yeah.
So the NIL should only qualify to me for juniors or seniors because and you could say, well, why would you do that? Because juniors and seniors can go to the NFL. How many players actually go to the NFL and it ain't every junior or senior that enters the draft?
That's true, Coach.
So I think NIL money, no, you don't get no NIL money for being a freshman. What you're gonna do is we're gonna pay you meal ticket. We'll help your parents make sure you get a dependable vehicle. We'll make sure that y'all got tickets for every ball game. We'll sponsor him 25 tickets a game so we can get people in the crowd. We'll pay for your flying and your travel. That's what you do for some freshmen if you want them to try to make an image. But dude, you're coming in playing high school ball. Now you're going to college. You're making millions of dollars on a NIL deal, but your best friend from high school on the football team and y'all best friend that you used to eat lunch with in high school both ain't doing nothing after high school. They want to be makeshift drug dealers. Guess who's sponsoring them the money? The 19-year-old.
Yeah.
So you ain't made no image for yourself. You ain't made no name for yourself. Okay, you can sit here right now. You said backup quarterback at Tennessee is getting $8 million on an NIL deal.
Yep.
Guess what, dog? I don't even know his name.
True.
I can't pronounce it.
I don't even know it. And didn't
He's the
even
dude
know
from Hawaii, right?
Yeah, Nico Lama Leva 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 La.
They got some wild names out there.
But I mean,
But
how much
don't
money
even
is he
know
actually
it.
making? It ain't $8 million.
It's 8 over 4 years, so it's 2 a year.
2 a year if he stays.
That's
So
crazy.
Another question: How long is it going to be till these universities are required to give these student athletes that are making NIL tax classes?
yeah.
Or how long is it going to be until we see a junior that's in the Heisman running that is also under audit from the IRS?
This is all
stuff's
going to be
happen.
W-2 because if this is all 1099, dude, ain't nobody paying these taxes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm saying, man. It's a whole new world we're living in right now. Well, let's see how this pans out.
I mean, I remember when this NIL stuff first come out. The Texas Longhorns. They come out what was called the Pancake Collective just for the offensive linemen. If you sign with Texas, it's $50,000 a year to sign with Texas, no matter if you start or not. So I can't wait to see some of the tax implications come out from this. I'm all for getting paid, whatever. If they want to make some money, I think what the NCAA and the people that came up with this, and their hope was, these kids can make a couple $1,000s a month off TikTok promotions and, Facebook, local car dealership stuff. And it's, they didn't realize how crazy these boosters were. They're going to throw, they're already throwing millions at these kids.
Hundreds of millions.
Well, hey, next week on the show, guys, we're actually going to throw a segment in that is going to be I don't know what we're going to call it yet, so I'm not going to give it a name, but we're basically going to go over the highest NIL deals in college football and discuss the taxes on them if they were to file. Because let's be honest, if this continues for the next 5 years, the federal government, they're coming to get theirs. They
Well,
always do.
That's
They locked up Willie Nelson, and that man wouldn't hurt a fly, but he hurt the government.
That's why I don't understand the verbiage. If they file, they have to. If they're making money,
Right.
they have to file. Period.
Mhm.
It don't matter if it's cash. Somebody is writing. I own a business. A personal business. When I do marketing, I claim my marketing expenses at the end of the year as a write-off. In order to do that, I'm showing the government, hey, I give this person, $10,000 a month to market my company.
Mhm.
So the government's got it. Say, okay, so if I'm a booster and I'm paying $1 million to a kid, you guarantee, you best believe I'm writing that $1 million off at the end of the year for myself. Whether that athlete claims it or not, that's not on me. That's on him. And the government is gonna find out who made that money. Period.
I wonder if they're able to file like a 501c, like a tax exempt status.
There's no way.
Not with that much money.
I don't see a way.
Yeah, not with that much.
Well, hey man, look at these churches do it.
Yeah, but they're not
Yeah,
church.
Yeah, but
That's
nobody wants to go into the church government wise and try and destroy them and keep them from building another church that's the size of the building behind.
I disagree.
Greg.
They'll come after you for a.
But I mean, some of these churches are ridiculous. Some of them, you look at them, you like, they so big. Do y'all have heaven and hell in this church?
Yeah, I know.
But Kevin is totally right. What are you gonna do? Because I guarantee you, none of these kids know anything about the government. They know nothing about how taxes work, and parents are so damn greedy right now. They not thinking about the government themselves. So what could really happen? Can you not be eligible for the NFL draft until you pay your taxes?
And I'm not fighting for any political party, but when you have Democrats in office, they're looking at $600 PayPal transactions between friends.
Yeah.
So if me and Craig's, if I say, hey Craig, I'll sell you these golf clubs that I paid $900 for $600. The IRS is getting a copy that I'm making $600. I better have that receipt from those golf clubs I bought 5 years ago to show, hey, I already paid for these, or I'm on the hook for $600. It's
$600.
It's crazy.
Well, hey, we're going to chop up some taxes and some issues next week, but a nice little advertisement for next week's show, by God. But it's time to chop it up. The games of the week presented by Chop and Block Podcast. All right, number 1, Ohio State and Penn State. An absolute classic, historical classic. Number 2, Tennessee and Alabama. I don't think, besides last year or the first year, that was the first win maybe in 15, 16, 17 years. And I don't know what to say about this game. I'll get into it later. Number 3, Duke, FSU. This is a sleeper game for me. Duke has been very impressive. Florida State's dealing with injuries all year, it seems like. And it seems like they play down to every opponent they play. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's an ACC curse. Number 4, USC and Utah. Man, USC has got some explaining to do. And Utah, I mean, they've been pretty solid all year. So, good matchup there. Number 5, Oregon and Washington State. We touched on it earlier. Washington State, an absolute disappointment that was on Saturday night. Oregon, also disappointing. 2 teams have a lot to play for, I think, still. Oregon more so. Good matchup there. But I'm going to start it off with Havoc. Go ahead, Havoc. Who do you got in these matchups?
Yeah, I'll go right down the list. The first game, I'll go with Ohio State. Just think they're the better team right now, even though it'll be at Penn State. Then Tennessee, Bama. I know Bama's been struggling, but I just don't believe in Tennessee, and my Gators beat them, and Alabama's better than the Gators. Then number 3, Duke and FSU. Man, this one's giving me trouble. I want to pick Duke because FSU tends to blow these games, but against my own better judgment, I'm going to pick FSU. Then USC, Utah. I expect USC to bounce back this week and get the W. And then 5, Oregon versus Washington State. I got to go with Oregon here. I really like what Dan Lanning's doing, and they still should be undefeated. They should have won that game against Washington. I expect Oregon to win this game.
All right, Coach Price.
All right. First game, Ohio State, Penn State. My buddy Two Turnt said James Franklin hadn't won nothing and can't beat a ranked team. But honestly, I really think Penn State has a shot in this ball game. I mean, it's not going to be a cakewalk for Ohio State by any means, because Ohio State hadn't really showed me the separation that they normally would have at this time of the year. They're still in that phase of what are we going to do to try to win it, and we don't have a real established quarterback like we had in the past that could go out and do it. And the same goes for Penn State. So I think this game is really going to boil down to the quarterback play. I don't think that Penn State and James Franklin can actually win this ball game in the horseshoe. If it was being played at Penn State, I would give them a little edge on it. But I'm going to go with Ohio State in this matchup, because I just think with them playing at home, they will come out on top and be the better team. Tennessee and Alabama, this game is going to be based on one thing only. Now, first of all, can Tennessee beat Alabama 2 years in a row? I'm giving that a no. But what would it take for Tennessee to beat Alabama? Tennessee has to be able to score, and they're playing a defense that ain't a slouch. And we saw with the way Milton got beat up Saturday, that with the front that Alabama's got, they're going to beat him to a pulp. So can Tennessee actually score on Alabama? And can Alabama actually score on Tennessee, or can Tennessee actually get some stops, maybe put Miro in some bad situations, or capitalize on a turnover? But I'm sitting here saying it like it. Didn't they play in Tuscaloosa last year?
No, Tennessee.
They were in Tennessee last year? Okay, well, no, you're not going to come to Tuscaloosa and beat them, not with them having the Saban revenge on their minds. The one thing I can tell you about Nick Saban and his squad at Alabama is, if you beat him, he's going to come out and he's going to shake your hand after the game. He's going to whisper in your ear, y'all did a great job. You guys played real good. Keep it up. Y'all are headed in the right direction. And then the minute Nick Saban gets in the locker room and closes the door and get through with his team meeting, when he goes in that office, the first thing he going to do is tell them coaches, look, if some bitches not beat me again next year, or you out of here.
Yep.
So Alabama, you'll beat Tennessee, because Nick Saban ain't going to let you take his cookies twice. FSU and Duke, this is a game where FSU, if you don't come out focused, you're really going to get beat. If you come out and you take Duke light, you're going to get beat. You're literally going to have to go into this Duke game like you went into the LSU game. You're going to have to play them as hard as you did against LSU week 1, because being a conference game, there's nothing better than to knock you out in the conference. And Duke is no slouch. So I'm going FSU, but if FSU is not on their game, Duke could get them. Utah, USC, honestly, man, I think Utah could beat USC right now, because USC is going to have their heads hanging low because they know they just screwed up their season. So I think the Cali mentality is going to come out of those boys, and they're not going to play as hard. Because how many teams have you seen on the West Coast dominate until they lose, and when they lose is back to the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl game?
Yep.
So look for Utah to be a sleeper in that ball game. I don't think USC, I think they actually going to be a 2-loss team this year. Some people even said 3. I think the Utah game will be the second loss. And as far as Oregon, Washington State, man, Washington State, y'all ain't turned over no leaves. So I'm going with Oregon. And after the performance that Bo Nix proved to me last Saturday against Washington, even if Washington State got up 14, 21 points and thought we got our act together, you got Bo Nix on the other side, buddy. You could easily lose that ball game with 14 seconds left in the game.
All right, Dylan, what you got?
Yep. So, this first game, being at Ohio State, I'm always going to give them that edge. Now, Penn State, no one's talking about their defense. They have a legitimate defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to give the two-turn Tony, stat, man. James Franklin's 2-15 in top 10 opponents.
Yep.
And until he shows that he can show up in the big game, not shoot himself and shoot his team in the foot, until he shows that, I'm not going to pick him in these big games, especially on the road. I got Ohio State in that one. Tennessee, Alabama. Look, man. Again, you ain't gonna beat Nick Saban twice, especially not in Tuscaloosa. Tennessee, their success on offense is dependent on their run. They're a run-first team, and then they try to hit you over the top. I don't think they'll be able to consistently run on Alabama, and they definitely ain't hitting them over the top. Alabama's got two really good safeties, and in Caleb Downs and Malachi Moore. And I don't know how is Malachi. Is he out for this game or is he playing? Do y'all know?
I think he's playing.
I think he's playing.
He probably would. He's a dog. Yeah, Alabama's a 9-point favorite. I think they win around that 9 or 10. Duke FSU. Riley Leonard is day to day. He seems like a tough dude. Like he'll stick it out and he'll play. But being at FSU, they're a 13-point favorite. They ain't gonna. Duke will cover that, but FSU will win the game. USC Utah. It is a sneaky upset pick for Utah, but I think their defense is going to give USC some problems, but they just don't have an offense, man. They can't. If USC scores 24 points, they're going to win the game. And then with Oregon, Washington State, this is at Oregon. This is a bounce back game. Oregon is a 20.5-point favorite. They cover. They beat the shit out of them.
All right. Hey, before I throw it to Craig and Kevin to send us home, I'm going to give you mine. I'll be honest with you. I have got Penn State going into the horseshoe and beating Ohio State. And something's telling me, I don't know what the spread is. I haven't looked at it today. It's always early in the week. I don't look at it until about Thursday. But what is the spread, Dylan?
4.5.
So I'll be honest with you. I think Penn State beats Ohio State by 8 or more. I feel like Penn State is running the ball well. Ohio State really hadn't. To me, they're always dominant up front. They haven't been that dominant this year. They gave up some run plays here and there to some, not so good teams. And the quarterback play, Tony actually put that in the comments I see here. It will be the difference. Kyle McCord has not looked like a great Ohio State quarterback. I know he had the one good drive against Notre Dame, but my God, it was aided with 10 people, 9 people on the field. It's like I don't think he has enough to beat Penn State. I think Penn State goes in there and beats them convincingly. Number 2, Tennessee and Alabama. I don't see a way that Tennessee can go into Tuscaloosa and win. I think if there is a way, it goes in 2 ways. Tennessee can run the football. Alabama can't stop it. Joe Milton can throw the play action pass deep and challenge Alabama. And then, the biggest question is Alabama's offense. They're hit or miss, like we've always said, or at least this year. So I going into that game, I still have Alabama winning. I think they're going to win probably by 10. And if it was a blowout, I wouldn't be surprised. I think if Alabama gets hot, Tennessee has no shot of coming back. This is not a team that can play comeback football. Duke and FSU, I actually think FSU is going to blow them out. I think they will win by 24 or more. I just don't think that Duke, they matched up and beat Clemson on week 1, but they don't match up well against FSU on any side of the ball at any position. I think FSU will win, and a lot of that's going to have to do with Coleman on the outside. That dude is unreal. I'd love to play with him on Madden right now. USC, Utah, this is going to be 3 in a row. The Utah Utes will beat USC. And I'll be honest with you, I think they're going to smother them defensively. I think they are going to have Caleb Williams in a headlock, Mick Foley style, all night long. And USC will go down again. And we said it a couple weeks ago, Utah are the kings of Pac-12 until otherwise. I know Washington's up right now. Oregon looks good. Utah's always there. And, I mean, they're defending, 2-time champs, I believe? At least one time. They won it last year. So, Oregon, Washington State, this is going to be a bounce-back game from the heavens. Oregon's going to win by 24 or more, blow Washington State out. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Oregon back in it at the end of the year. Craig, go ahead.
I mean, I got Ohio State handling Penn State in the horseshoe. 4-point spread. It's shrunk a little bit this week. As Two Turnt would say, neither one of these coaches have proved anything. One of them's got to prove something today, or Saturday. That's just strictly home field advantage. It ain't no fun to play in the horseshoe. They say Alabama and Tennessee's a rivalry. I don't know what kind of rivalry it is when you get your ass kicked 15 out of 16 years. There ain't no way they're going in Tuscaloosa. Alabama covers that game easily, 9.5-point spread. No love for Duke from Las Vegas this week. 14-point underdogs traveling to Florida State. Now, granted, Florida State's 7-0-1 in the last 8 meetings. So I think Florida State's going to win that game. I think it'll be closer. I think Duke covers. I don't think it's a blowout. I think Duke's quarterback play is going to be good enough to keep them in the game. USC and Utah, I am anti-Utes. Even though USC's laid a couple golden eggs, 6.5-point dog is Utah. It's in Southern California. I think USC wins that game. I think it'll be a close game. I'm with you with Oregon. They're going to destroy Washington State in a bounce-back game. I got 2 honorable mentions to get to real quick. My first one being a homer. Ole Miss Auburn ought to be pretty fun. Even though Auburn laid an egg last week. Weird stat from Ole Miss. They're 3-9 after bye weeks over the last 12 years. Now, granted, 4 of those times they played Alabama. Lane Kiffin's like 0-6 after bye week.
Is that at Jordan Hare?
Yeah, that was at Jordan Hare, and it's a 6 p.m. game. So, I think this is going to be kind of one of them weeks, kind of like when Georgia ran into him at Jordan Hare. When you look real bad, you just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
I think Ashford starts. I think the Peyton Thorne experiment is over. I think the defense plays better. It should be a good game. I'm hoping anyways. The other one that's going to be real fun that nobody mentions was South Kakalaki versus Missouri. That'll be a fun one to watch. I'm looking forward to watching that game. And that's my picks, man. I'm taking Auburn at home, and I'm just going to die on the Homer Cross, I guess. I said at the beginning of the year that we're going to win one of these games we weren't supposed to win. I think this might be the one, and I still think the Iron Bowl is going to be interesting this year too. But we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, you touched on South Carolina. I hope Shane Beamer kicks something else with his other foot and has 2 broke feet. Butch Jones 2.0.
All right, well, KD, you're the last one up.
All right, well, I'm gonna touch on the Auburn Ole Miss game too because I love my boy Craig. But I hate Auburn, but I love this game because half the fan base wanted to hire Hugh Freeze, the other half wanted to hire Lane Kiffin away from Ole Miss. Either way, I get to watch Auburn fans fight after the game on message boards, and it'll be hours of entertainment for me. So,
and they both coached at Ole Miss.
Yeah, they did. All right, so I got Oregon big against Washington State. That's not even going to be a contest. Oregon's going to be pissed, and they're going to play like it. And Utah. I got Utah over USC. I just watch USC. I really just think they care about Heisman trophies and NIL and letting everybody know how much they're paying people. They're all flash. They have no substance. Duke FSU. So here's my deal with Duke FSU. If Riley Leonard plays for Duke, I'm going to pick Duke, but I'm going to wait to pick Duke to make sure Riley Leonard's playing. Because if not, then I'm going FSU. I really think Duke is a pretty solid football team. So, and of course FSU is too, but they're a little banged up as well. So, right now I got FSU, but that may change Friday. I've got Penn State upsetting Ohio State. I think this is the time that Franklin finally says, "Hey, this is my statement win." We've been waiting on it for a while. I personally like Franklin as a coach. Anybody that can go to Vandy and win 7 games a year, I think they're good. But a lot of people don't like Franklin. I personally like him, but so I got Penn State, Ohio State. All right, Tennessee, Alabama, 3rd Saturday in October, one of the best rivalries ever. I know it's been 15, we're 15-1 the last 16 years, but people forget too, there was a stretch where Tennessee beat Alabama 11 times straight. So this is one of those series that has big streaks on each side. So I think this game comes down to two things, and I think they both really fall on Alabama's side. Our offensive line, we're 130th out of 134 teams in the country in giving up sacks. We've given up 31 sacks in 6 games. So I don't, I'm not good at math, but that's a little over 5 sacks a game, and that's not good for anybody. So,
especially when your quarterback's a horse.
Yeah. And then, I just every week I want to really get back on the Alabama home train, but we got to stop. Our defensive line is going to have to be able to stop Tennessee. When I watch Tennessee play A&M, A&M's got the best, most talented defensive line in the SEC, and Tennessee ran at will on them, man. And they've got a great zone blocking running scheme, and that's just hard to stop. So if we can stop Tennessee running the ball, and we can limit our sacks to at least maybe just 2, I think Alabama's going to win the game. But if not, Tennessee's going to win. So I'm going to be a homer, and I'm going to pick Alabama because it's at home. But I'm not confident in this game. The stuff I read, our quarterback, he come out this week, and he's already stated, somebody asked him about being a running quarterback, and he said, "Oh, I don't consider myself a running quarterback." I just about threw my laptop when he said that, because I'm like, dude, you're a running quarterback. You need to realize it, because when I watched him last weekend against Arkansas, there was so many. I mean, our offensive line. We give up 6 sacks against Arkansas. Maybe 2 or 3 were on the offensive line. The other 3 or 4 were because he'd sit back there and he would literally hesitate to the last second to take off and run. And by then it's too late, and he got sacked. So Milroe's going to have to eventually say, look, you're going to have to say, I'm a passing quarterback or I'm a running quarterback. Do one or the other, because you can't hesitate. So I got Alabama. I think we'll do enough just to squeak it by. I would probably, I hate Tennessee probably more than I hate Auburn, because Tennessee's fans are worse, if that's possible. But I don't know. I'm going Alabama. So there it is.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say tomorrow night could be something, could be the same, could be different. We're going to team up tonight or tomorrow morning and figure out what is best for the Chop and Block podcast for tomorrow night. But if the regular scheduled program is up, it will be the NFL show. And we have a lot to talk about for sure. But this has been This Week in College Football with the Chop and Block podcast, presented by DJ's Clamshack. And had a lot of guys out tonight. We want to give a shout out to Jared Cole and the birth of his little girl. We also want to shout out for, I guess we have a couple more weeks, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. My mom is, in that fight right now. So big shout out to her. Big shout out to anybody who's also dealing with that. But join us tomorrow night for something. We don't know what yet, but like I said, a lot of people out of tonight's show that we missed here on the Chopping Block podcast. They will be back very soon. Big shout out to our executive producer, Beast of Kane, Barry Wilson himself. But like I said, this has been a Chopping Block podcast. Dylan, what you got for me?
Hold on, I think JP got something for us.
Okay.
No, I was just wanting to say, man, not only congratulations to Jared. A buddy of mine just got back from Greece and told me that you were going to bring me some spirits. And I said, do that. And they brought me this. And, dude, I don't even know what it is. But I'm finna get a shot. And I'm going to sit here and say to this week on the Chopping Block podcast, I want to give congratulations to two of all guys. To Jared Cole and the birthday of your daughter. And to two-turnt Tony tying the knot. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers to that.
Hey, can't argue that. I wish I was going to be at the wedding, but seems like
I'll send videos in the group chat.
seems like over the years we've always been separated by football terms, but it seems like the state borders have been separating me and Tony. And that might be for the good after the last time we got together and I was crippled in his garage. But that video is for another time, and I hope it never surfaces on the Chopping Block podcast. But Dylan, send us home.
Dalton, drop that shit.
Yeah, we about to do it. Watch us get into it. We some lumberjacks, and we needing wood. Yeah, we going for the sweep, then we mop it up. We put it all